Hello, and welcome back to I'll Watch What They're Watching, where we're curious and adamant about cinema. My name is Kyrie, and I'm one of your hosts.
And I'm Adam.
And today we are going to be chatting just kind of about Halloween, kind of our history with movies surrounding Halloween, different traditions, maybe delving into some horror territory. But we honestly, this is coming out on, this episode will be coming out on the 30th. So we did just kind of want to talk about Halloween. And then we will do a little bit of, an October review and then November preview. We know that we're coming into some Oscar-winning festival releases here soon. So we will kind of talk about that as well.
Yeah, perfect. Halloween is an exciting one for me. I think that I know that I just get into like a mood of certain movies that, horror or just that sort of aesthetic of Halloween-y. But I do feel like I haven't seen like a huge wide selection of these types of movies.
Interesting.
Like Christmas, I've seen 50 movies over and over and over again, and we have all our Christmas movies, and that's great. But Halloween, I feel like there's a few, but there's no real, like, every year I need to watch this. And so I think it's a fun conversation to kind of walk through me at different stages of life and sort of what Halloween and Halloween movies have been. So yeah, it'll be cool.
Yeah, when you were saying that, I was the first part when you were like, Halloween is interesting with movie-wise. I thought the exact same thing as you, where I was like, Christmas has some locked in. Like, I feel like Christmas is much more, I'm like, I have, my beloved favorites that still hold up. I have my beloved favorites that I now realize are garbage. But like, there's a mood around Christmas. And I would say there is around Halloween as well. And I'll kind of get into these, but I pretty much have two. There are two Halloween specials in my family that we watched every single year. And I will talk about them a little bit. But yeah, and I've mentioned this on the podcast before, I didn't really grow up watching horror films. Not all, but a lot of horror are rated R, and my mom doesn't watch rated R movies, and my dad just doesn't like horror. So I didn't grow up watching a lot of them, so that has kind of emerged a little later in life. But I do have the two specials that I have seen every year that I'll talk about.
Yeah, no, we're exactly the same in that sense. And I think we both kind of have the same aversion to heavy gore type things.
Right.
So sometimes it is some of those older movies or some of those other things that I think we tend to lean towards, but there are certainly exceptions that come up for me. And my list is a bit more kind of sprawling and 88 type brain of just running around crazy like that. But let's hear about at least one of your shorts first, and then we can kind of jump into that.
So the first one that springs to mind when talking about Halloween is It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
Sure.
Because, to this point, I have, like, the collection of all of them on Blu-ray because I grew up watching, the Peanuts gang around the holidays. That's what you did.
Yeah, real quickly, it's kind of funny because we had a bunch of the Charlie Brown movies in the holiday specials and that type of thing, so it was a big thing for us too. But for some reason, we didn't own this, and so I don't remember watching this one until quite a bit later, and then I've maybe only seen it once. So I'm excited to hear you talk about it, because again, it's like Charlie Brown is so central to us growing up, but for whatever reason, we didn't own this specific one, and so I didn't catch it.
Yeah, this one, I remember watching it always on TV, but I do distinctly remember we had, like, the VHS of this one. It was in an orange, like, clamshell case.
Oh, sure.
Like, I distinctly remember having this one. But came out in 1966, so a year after the Christmas one. Written by Charles M. Schultz, directed by Bill Melendez. I want to talk about the Christmas one just for a minute, just because I think it gives some interesting context. So the Christmas one was expected to be a disaster. They said, I think it was the director, Bill Melendez, they watched it right before it released, and he basically was like, oh my gosh, we killed it. Like it's awful. We killed this movie. And then it became an instant classic. Like because the studio execs didn't like it either.
Oh,
And
no kidding.
I was reading about it, and it was basically one of them was either Charles or Bill was like, I am convinced that if it was not supposed to air in a week, it would have gotten canceled. Like this would not have aired.
So do you know what the timeline, like how many were released before this of Charlie Brown movies?
A handful. So shoot, I think it was only Christmas, and then they aired one in the summer, and then Great Pumpkin.
Oh, it was all like back to back to back.
Yeah. So this was this was less than a year after the Christmas one, but the Christmas one ended up being obviously instant classic. It had the second highest ratings in its slot right after the show Bonanza, and then the next year, same thing.
Awesome.
Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, similar thing. You know, they had built up enough of a rapport by then, so it came out. Instant classic. People loved it. The article I read said that this is regarded as the best of, I would say, like the big three: Great Pumpkin, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. And I think it said it's like just kind of regarded as like the best Charlie Brown short. I don't know if I believe that, because I did, again, a little research on my own, and Christmas seems to have the edge.
I would probably say that from a general sense, but my personal take, I would take Thanksgiving.
Okay. Thanksgiving is, just FYI, Thanksgiving is sort of regarded as the worst one of the three.
Hey, generally people are wrong.
I mean, I was telling Sarah this last night. I was like, yeah, Thanksgiving is kind of known as not the best one. I love it. I still think it's hilarious to this day. Yeah. So I'm not arguing with you. I'm with you. But Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown did get 2 Emmy nominations, and yeah, just kind of a few other fun facts. So you said you've seen this once? Do you remember any of it?
I want to say I know at least once, but I can't think of another time.
Okay. Do you remember any of the story? Or the images or anything?
Something about is it the piano players growing a really big pumpkin?
No.
Okay, I don't know anything.
That's not it at all. Linus believes in this Halloween mystical entity called the Great Pumpkin, and it's akin to Santa Claus. Okay. So he's like writing the Great Pumpkin letters, and, you know, this is what I want this year. And he's like, what happens is you go to the most sincere pumpkin patch, and like the Great Pumpkin will pick the most sincere pumpkin patch, and he'll fly through the air and, you know, give toys to the kids that are there. So he every year has just been like parking out in this pumpkin patch, and every year, you know, the Great Pumpkin doesn't show up.
Because that's nonsense.
Right. But in this year, Charlie Brown's little sister Sally, who, you know, she and Linus, big crush on each other, he asked her to stay with him instead of going trick-or-treating and instead of going to the Halloween party, and she agrees, and then, you know, the Great Pumpkin doesn't show up, and she is annoyed, to say the least. And then there's a little kind of subplot with Snoopy where he's dressed up as a World War I flying ace, and he has a little showdown with the Red Baron, and so that's its whole little thing.
Have you seen those memes that are like, you know, Charlie Brown plot, and it's just normal whatever, and then it's like Snoopy plot, and it's like some horror thing, like walking into like giant monsters or like something like that? Like, this has got to be one of the first examples of that, where you have like this B plot or even a C plot with Snoopy that is just outrageous, that is nothing to do with the plot, and it's just like, what is going on here? At all. And how that, you know, you have like Perry the Platypus and Phineas and Ferb, and you have different things in different TV shows of people just going on crazy things. It's just so funny. Snoopy's just always just out there doing something crazy.
Doing his thing. Well, so that's the thing is, like, you know, as they're trick-or-treating and as they go to the Halloween party, he has a showdown with the Red Baron, he loses, and he crash lands, like, behind enemy lines. And so there's this little, like, mini journey of him, like, wandering through the French countryside. But the visuals around that, the background visuals, really pretty, you know, like, different, like, kind of sunsets, this kind of, you know, he's this lone, you know, American out in making his way through the French countryside. The backgrounds are actually painted and not drawn,
Awesome.
just for that little like sequence. And you can see that, like, it's almost got this watercolor oil pastel look
Cool.
at various points
Okay.
look, and you can see that it's not drawn, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
But this did kind of define like a new genre, so to speak. You had the Christmas one that again kind of did it first, but this was the first Halloween special.
Mm.
So like Christmas kicked it off with Charlie Brown, and then you had Grinch shortly after, like a year later. But this was kind of the first Halloween special like ever, and then it premiered, every year. And something that I thought was interesting that I noticed in reading about it, and then when I watched it, there are really only horror elements in the title sequence.
Okay.
So the title sequence starts, and it shows the kids running around and being spooked by ghosts and different, apparitions that appear, and they're spooked and they run over here, and then, it fades in, it's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. And then it starts and horror never comes up again. That's it. They go trick-or-treating. There's a Halloween party. It starts out very fun and lighthearted, and it never really strays from that, which I also find really interesting compared to other Halloween specials that are like really leaning into like the spooky factors.
Yeah. No, that is really interesting. It's nice to have things like that. Maybe this is one that we'll try to throw on this year for Oliver and kind of see where he's.
Oh, I think you'd like it.
Yeah, he can be hit or miss when you try to show him something new.
But yeah, that pretty much sums up Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
Awesome.
But
Great.
I know you kind of wanted to talk a little bit about your kind of journey.
Yeah, I'll jump into it. Like I said, I think for me, Halloween hasn't always been a big movie time. I don't particularly have any background reason or anything behind that, except for, like you said, the kind of the horror thing, the rated R thing just was never really anything. And that remained for most of my childhood. And I was a big trick-or-treater. Once I hit the age that I could go by myself with my friends, we would just hit the town and just go up right to that edge of, hey, should you really be out this late? And should you really be trick-or-treating? And the answer is yes, of course. You should trick-or-treat as long as you want and be friendly. And yeah, so I always had a great time with that. But in high school was when I think my friend group really just kind of caught a bug of horror for a little while. But we're still, still in Utah, grew up in Utah. So it was still kind of that PG-13 level of horror, never really venturing into the rated R. And that was like the hard line that we were all okay with. But it was just a really fun period of time where we would watch some of these movies. Before I get more into that detail, there is one movie that one of our brothers showed us one time called Sphere. And this movie came out in 1998. It has Dustin Hoffman, Sharon Stone, Samuel L. Jackson. And it's just it's got a 13% on Rotten Tomatoes.
What a gift.
Right. And I didn't realize it was that bad until I was looking it up. It was a few weeks ago. I was looking it up for some reason. I just remember it being really scary, right? I won't go into too much of the details. It's basically like there's this underwater alien type ship, and it's stealing from a bunch of sci-fi tropes, and it starts trying to kill everyone, whatever. But anyways, so in high school, as we were starting to watch these different movies, me and a few of my friends, we got this great idea of like, hey, if you sit there and you sit here, then these girls that were trying to get to hold our hands would be forced to sit here, here, and here. And there were a few times that we would try this.
Strategic planning.
There's scary movies. And so naturally, if it's a scary movie, you can hold someone's hand to feel better. Every time we tried this, it absolutely failed as far as where people were sitting. But I will say during this time period, I did get to hold hands with a girl during one of the scary movies because I think it was actually Sphere. And I texted in the middle of the movie something stupid that a, 16-year-old boy would text and like, hey, I can hold your hand, make you feel better, whatever it is, but it was great.
Yeah.
So I think,
Well done.
there's a couple in here that we watched: The Woman in Black, The Ring, Sixth
Mm.
Sense, I Am Legend. The one that has stuck with me a little bit more over time, I haven't revisited it and don't know that I would, but it stuck with me, is Insidious. You've seen Insidious?
I have. I actually, when I did a podcast before, I did that one and the sequel with a buddy of mine, and that was the first time watching it.
So
it might be interesting to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a way to measure like an audience's reaction to certain things happening in a movie.
Yes.
And I think
heart rate and adrenaline and
yeah, so I think number one movie is a movie called Sinister, which I haven't seen, but I've read a little bit about it, and it sounds pretty scary. I don't want to know that I want to.
I have seen it.
Oh, you have seen Sinister?
I've seen Sinister. Yeah, I did not enjoy it.
Sure.
I thought it was fine.
But I think Insidious generally ranks in those top lists. And in particular, there's one jump scare that actually tends to be number one or, in the top 5 of like, this jump scare is so unexpected and so scary that it really has an effect on people. If you've seen it, you probably know exactly which one it is. But so there's something about horror movies. I don't know how to explain this, but it's like when they go to somewhere that's been built up for a long time and they're in a place,
yes,
it is so scary. And like there's things that I feel that are just not normal to be feeling. That is like, it's why people, I think, love horror movies so much, is 'cause it is a controlled environment to get some of those like really unique adrenaline or different feelings coming out. But so this is maybe one of the first times I've felt that in Insidious, when they go like into, I don't know what they call it, the demon lair or whatever.
The dream world yeah,
whatever it is. And it's just so scary. And like it's a great creature design in this. The red scary boogeyman. I think it's great. Yeah. I
think it looks like great value Darth Maul.
I was about to say it's kind of like a Darth Maul-esque type thing. So that's kind of fun. But yeah, so that's one that's really stuck with me. The other one I'll shout out real quick, and then we'll turn it back over to you. So there's around the same time we got really into Slender Man, and
okay.
So Slender Man was like if you're older than probably 35, you may not know what Slender Man is, but it was basically like an internet urban legend that was just created from creepypasta, where someone just like created a new thing, and it's really tall thing with white face. But what they did is they created this online computer game where you would have to go around in these woods with a flashlight and find these notes to win the game or to escape or whatever. And Slender Man would be following you. And it was so scary and so just atmospheric. But then along with that, we started watching this YouTube series called Marble Hornets. And basically, Marble Hornets is like a found footage series about Slender Man. Pulls a lot from things like the Blair Witch Project and that type of vein. But we watched there's tons and tons of episodes of this, and some are really good, some are whatever, just people walking around in the woods, which arguably is all the Blair Witch Project is, but that's still fantastic. We really got into that for a little while, and it's just, it's, for me, Halloween and kind of these horror movies, they seem to like really stick with me for a season, leading up to Halloween, and then I'm okay just kind of walking away from it for a long time, and then I'll catch that bug or catch that itch and go back into it. So that's kind of my big experience there. I'd love to hear about your second movie. Then I'll talk a little bit more about what that's been like a little more recently.
Yeah. So the other one that we grew up with was Disney's Legend of Sleepy Hollow. It is now released in, like, I have the Blu-ray. It's mixed with that and The Wind in the Willows. So they were two separate shorts that they mashed together. So this was one of the package films. So little Disney history for y'all. The Golden Age of Disney is the first five with, Snow White, Pinocchio, Fantasia, Dumbo, and Bambi. And then World War II started. There was lots of animators working on propaganda. There were a lot of men in the war. So Disney was doing what they called package films, which was basically just a handful of shorts thrown together, and they released it because they really didn't have anything else. And so both The Wind in the Willows and Sleepy Hollow were intended to be feature films.
No
and
kidding.
Then they just ended up, yeah. So like Wind in the Willows was actually one that it was like, they started and stopped, they started and stopped, they started and stopped, they finally made it a short. Like that's kind of where it went. So yeah, so now it's called, I believe, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. Mr. Toad is the first one. We would watch that one growing up. It's not my favorite out of them. And just in the interest of time last night, I skipped ahead just to Ichabod Crane. But it is the last of the package films. I think it's the best of the package films by a decent margin, and it kind of, it wrapped things up before Cinderella then came on the scene and started the Silver Age, 1950. But I love everything about it. Like, it's, you have Bing Crosby as your narrator and the singer, and who doesn't love to hear, Bing Crosby talk and sing? He's got one of those voices that you're just like, bro, I'll listen to you, read the dictionary. I don't care.
Sure.
I think the character design is something really, really special. Like, previously I've really taken an interest in the backgrounds, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but the character design in this one I just thought was really, really good. You have your Ichabod Crane character where one of the lines is even like, are they shovels or are they feet? And he has this lanky, his feet look like they're about 2 feet long. They're floppy. The way he walks is this kind of really interesting, it shows that he's lanky. He has this almost jerky, floppy quality to him, and then obviously with that nose and the iconic hair. Same thing with Katrina, watching her, looks very different from the other women. They're really trying to be like, look, she's beautiful. She's got, a waist that looks like it's about 6 inches around with the huge bustle. And then Brom Bones, same thing. He's got the big, the meaty arms. His hair is one of the ones that doesn't look ridiculous. He's meant to look like your stereotypical. He actually, Gaston, the designers for Gaston took some inspiration from Brom Bones.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. But yeah, character design, just watching this time, I was like, this is really impressive. They're doing some really cool stuff here. But then those like when he's going through the hollow, going home, the like gothic, shadowy, these kind of like inky blacks, and these, Disney they do a great job with it in like Snow White. They do a great job with it here of making like a forest seem like this like horror, hellscape basically.
Yeah.
And this one does it perfectly. I remember being spooked as a kid, and even watching it this time, even though it doesn't actively scare me, I'm just like, this has a spooky quality to it that I think is really fun. And then I think everything about the Headless Horseman is perfect. I think, the Headless Horseman song is my favorite part of the movie. It was stuck in my head all day yesterday leading up to watching the movie. The Headless Horseman himself, I think the way he, again, with character design, the way they do like the fiery pumpkin up to kind of, his cape, and the fact that he stands out like in this dark background when he himself is kind of this, dark black figure, I think is really cool. I think the laugh is great.
Oh,
the Headless Horseman's laugh is still just like chilling. I think it's perfect every time, because I've seen this so many times. Ichabod gets scared and then sees that there's what he thinks there's nothing to be afraid of. He was scared by some plants hitting a log, and he starts laughing with the horse. And the minute he starts laughing, I'm just like, it's coming, it's coming. I know it's coming. Because as he's laughing, then you hear the Headless Horseman laugh. And you hear that, through the rest of the short. And then there's this one shot where there's like this gorge and the Headless Horseman, he leaps over it. His horse leaps over it. Beautiful shot. You've got like this reddish, like, aura, and he just jumps, and the way it's angled and everything, it's kind of like the whale shot in Pinocchio, where like it's terrifying. You see the whale coming right at you, and that's kind of what you see here. You just see him leaping over this gorge, and you're just like, oh, this isn't a person. Like, this is a phantom. This is a apparition. Like, this is a monster. And and as a kid, I was like, oh, the Headless Horseman is Brom Bones. And logically, I'm like, that might be the case. It might have been Brom just trying to scare Ichabod. I like to think that Brom Bones was trying to scare him with the song, but I like to think that the Headless Horseman is real. He is a spook. He is a monster. He is a Halloween icon that is out in the, in the hollow, waiting to catch people as they go home, trying to get a new head.
Yeah.
So that's like the child, I don't know, it's kind of, Coraline is kind of like this too, where I'm kind of like, this is kind of like baby's first horror film. Like, it has those spooky elements, it has those horror elements without quite being like terrifying. But I think it's delightful. I love it.
Yeah, I think it's a really good adaptation. It's really fun, really good mythology and all of that. We talked about this a little bit a few weeks ago, and I'm trying to remember. Have you seen the 90s Sleepy Hollow with Johnny Depp?
No, I tried to watch it a few years ago and I fell asleep. And I just haven't returned to it.
It's as a movie, it's good, it's interesting. It's not exactly like this version.
Oh, for sure. This took some liberties, to be fair. Yeah, this took some liberties from the actual, like, novelization.
Yeah, and I think as a very atmospheric Halloween type movie, I think it is very good. It's there are literal beheadings in it. It is rated R, but everything is very like exaggerated in a way that it doesn't look real, and at times feels kind of goofy. Christopher Walken is the Headless Horseman, and so I think that even is a little disarming, that you're like, oh, that's Christopher Walken. Like, I'll talk about it in a movie I saw this month where an actor really disappears into the role. Christopher Walken's a great actor, don't get me wrong, but you're like, that's Christopher Walken. So it's not like,
right.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, we watched that a few years ago and had a good time with it.
Awesome. But yeah, let's kick it back to, so how has Halloween kind of, and the movies around Halloween kind of, shaped as you've gone into adulthood?
Yeah, in general, Allie and I will try to watch a couple. I just mentioned Sleepy Hollow. That was one that we actually watched as a part of a movie book club with my brother Andrew and his wife. And so that's generally how it kind of has worked, is we'll watch a few leading up to it. Like last year we watched The Thing. A few that I'll point out, Allie showed me Psycho a few years back, and I had not seen it.
Psycho.
And the end, when there's like the reveal, and I'll say the monster in that movie's being crazy and coming. The dread I felt in my heart was unlike anything I have felt. I still remember that feeling and being genuinely like, wow, my body did not like that. Like, it was flipping out just watching that, which just it's an incredible thing to have happen in a movie that at the time, was 60 plus years old when I watched it, but the way that it holds up, and the reason it's a classic, and I turned to Allie and I was like, oh my gosh, like, I did not expect that to be like so powerful for me. And we watched a few other Hitchcocks after that at that time period, and I really liked Hitchcock.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah, so it's not a ton, but we watched a few. That'll be a one we'll have to do sometime. But
Oh, I would love to do top five Hitchcocks. Would love that.
so another one with Allie though is I had seen Sixth Sense a few times, and I had her watch it,
Mm.
and watching anyone that doesn't know the reveal of that movie piece it together and like figure it out
Yeah.
is a magical experience. Just sitting there and being like, yeah, yeah, okay. So and Allie is very smart when it comes. It annoys the heck out of me because I and I don't know. I just like watch a movie and I just take everything as it is. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then they'll do a twist and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I never saw that coming.
I've been betrayed.
Yeah, I'm just like that. But we'll be like watching Arrival, right? And
Mm.
Allie's like, so this is happening and this is how they're gonna figure it out. And I'll look at her and be like, how do you know that? How are you able to piece that
Yeah.
together? What are you talking about? But no, Allie, that was one example where Allie, I got to watch her experience that, and that was a really good time.
Wow, that's awesome.
The other one I'll talk about is in general the Mike Flanagan expanded cinematic universe. So
Oh, okay.
people may not know Mike Flanagan's name just off the bat, but I'm sure you'd recognize a lot of his Netflix shows. He does The
Mm-hmm,
Haunting of Hill
mm-hmm.
House. He did The House of Usher a few years ago, Midnight Mass. He's done a couple Stephen King adaptations. He's doing a Carrie TV show coming up in the next few years. He's doing that right now. He did the movie Doctor Sleep, which is the sequel to The Shining, and he's one of my favorite directors today, I think, just because I feel like he has a belief about the world and like just kind of general
Mm.
about people that really resonates with me. I was actually listening to a podcast with interviewing him last night, and he's just someone I love, and he's one of those guys that will use a lot of the same actors in all of his different TV
Yes.
series. So it's just a funny,
Right.
like, Victoria Pedretti's one who she's in Haunting of Hill House, and then she's the main character in Bly Manor.
Right.
We probably cut it from our creature feature, but I was telling you about how Elliot from E.T. is obviously now a grown
Yes.
man and still acting, and he's one that shows up in a lot of these different
Mm-hmm.
shows. So it's just kind of a fun thing there. But the two that really they're genuinely 10 out of 10, 5 stars, some of the best media out there, honestly, is Haunting of Hill House and Midnight Mass. Those two
Yeah.
are just incredible. And just like Haunting of Hill House, going back to that feeling of when you go to a space that you've been building up that you're not supposed to go to, they build up
Mm-hmm.
the whole series to go to this particular spot. And again, the dread you feel when they go in there. But Mike Flanagan, he's very careful about and again, I listened to an interview where he talks about this of there's so many things that happen in horror stuff. There's so many tropes and bad things that happen. But he, especially since he's had kids, wants to ensure that there's this humanity and there's this hopefulness that you're able to pull out of different
Mm.
things. And
I
so
like that.
this isn't necessarily a spoiler, but like maybe slightly so. The Haunting of Hill House isn't about the Haunting of Hill House. It's about like intergenerational mental illness and like
Mm.
depression and the way that,
Right.
it's right in front of people. And sometimes you're not taking that as seriously as you maybe should. And
Right.
they're crying out their whole life. And you're just, oh, it's just a ghost. Like, don't worry about it. There's nothing under your bed. And so it's pulling on some of those like very big sort of horror tropes, but then like
Right.
putting it into this packaged way where you watch it and you can just kind of like be like, oh my gosh, like this is so real. This is so impactful. So, and then Midnight Mass, I'm not going to spoil anything about Midnight Mass because I think you just need to go into that. But
I've had a few friends tell me I need to see it.
it's taking, and he talks about this, like, if you just read the Bible and take it as it is, it's not even horror adjacent. There's straight up horror things happening in the
Agreed.
Bible. And so it's taking sort of this religion and this horror and kind of melding the two. And he talks a lot about like his religious upbringing and the certain point when he became cynical towards it or frustrated with how things were when he grew up, and how he had been writing this for a long time, and in his 20s is very much a like atheist. I'm going to show how silly this is. I'm going to show atheism and why that's right. And
Mm.
as he's grown older and kind of gained more experience, it melded into this sort of, you have atheism on one side and religious fanaticism on the other, and how you can kind of come into the middle of this nuance sort of take on some different things.
Mm.
And I think that really, again, and he talks about like this, he says it came out, or they were doing production right around when COVID happened, and there was this change in Netflix, and these new people came in, and they were kind of like asking them questions about it, like, wait, there's like 7-minute monologues in this TV show. Wait, you don't introduce this thing until like episode 3? How how are you, people are like, how'd you get away with this? And they're like, we don't know. We were just doing it.
We just did it.
We were trying to push it through, and with just the timing of it just made it work out. So it's a really special, it's a really special series between those. And he also directed The Life of Chuck, which just came out this last year, which isn't horror.
Right.
He's generally a horror guy, but this is just kind of a warm hug of a movie.
Yeah, Stephen King is also generally a horror guy, and
he'll
that
delve off
is
and exactly
oh, because
right.
Life of Chuck is based off of a Stephen King.
It is, yes. Yeah, so the anything with Mike Flanagan though, especially those Netflix series, are incredible. In particular, Hill House and Midnight Mass are just beautiful depictions of horror, and like tying that to some real themes and building on some hope that you can get. There are some like really striking imagery and incredible like jaw-dropping moments as well. Similar to that Insidious jump scare, there's one in Hill House that many people point to as like one of the scariest jump scares in anything. And then there's this one thing that he does in Midnight Mass that is just jaw-dropping, and yeah, it's great. That's essentially where I've grown up. And there's just these touch points that I'll kind of get the itch and I'll watch a few of these things. I did about a week ago turn on Haunting of Hill House, and I watched the first 10 minutes and was like, nope, this is too scary for me. I do not want to watch this again right now. I'm not in one of those moods, so I am not watching this. So it is very scary, but
yeah, I just one other thing I want to touch on briefly. I did also get a chance to watch, because I mentioned this in an earlier episode, but I purchased the Essential Universal Monsters beautiful little book set thing. So I did get around to watching Frankenstein as well, the original 1931, directed by James Whale.
awesome.
It's great. Also, it kind of has an interesting connection to a Christmas special. The Frankenstein's monster is played by Boris Karloff, who also does The Grinch
No kidding.
in the animated How the Grinch Stole Christmas
No,
short.
I had no idea. That's awesome.
But watching it this time, really, really interesting. I love, you and I have talked before about how, like, there are movies that if you haven't seen them and then you watch them and you're like, oh, I've seen this before. Simply because it's become such, like, a cultural touchstone almost. And, like, a few years ago, I watched the original Halloween for the first time, because I was like, I would be remiss if I didn't at least mention that film in this podcast episode, and same thing. There are so many aspects of it that you're like, that's where this came from. This is where I've seen this, kind of set the stage for slasher films. But watching Frankenstein, 1931's Frankenstein, really interesting, because as I was watching, I was like, this is kind of where all the Frankenstein imagery came from. like that, the hair down to like the haircut,
Mm-hmm.
how the monster moves, how he looks, the bolts in his neck, everything about him, even the noises he makes, because like he makes just incoherent sounds. He's not speaking language, and so even those different things, those came from this movie, and that was really interesting watching it. As I was like, oh, this is brilliant. To be able, it takes a lot of liberties with the novelization. It is not like the book. In some ways, it is close, but in other ways, it's not.
Yeah, and you're extremely lucky. You get to drive, what is it, about 45 minutes today to go see.
Yes, to go see. So I watched it because I've been meaning to get around to it, and also in preparation because in just a handful of hours, I am going to be watching Del Toro's new film, which is an adaptation of Frankenstein. We did want to do a quick October review, November preview that is coming out on Netflix on November 7th, but it does have like a limited release in theaters, and so unfortunately all the theaters around me are AMC, which is great. I have the AMC pass for that reason, but AMC apparently doesn't really like Netflix movies because they're not showing Frankenstein. So we are driving 45 minutes to go see this thing because I really want to see it.
And I really, really, really wish I could see it in theaters as well, but it's about an hour and a half drive for me, and I just can't swing that. So
yeah, no, that's fair. But so yeah, let's go ahead and kick off then. This is the only film I'm really seeing in October. Again, and we've talked about this. I tend to be a last minuter on things, and just with school and life, I haven't been getting to the theater, and I need to make it more of a priority. But so unfortunately, that is the only thing I am seeing in October. I might try to cram one other thing in during this week, but I know you've seen a few things in theaters this month.
it really hasn't been as good of a month as I was hoping or as I realized. But there are a few I want to cover, and just looking up into November, there's at least 5 I think that I'm gonna hit no matter what.
Yeah.
And I think what happened with October, we gave a long list of things, and a lot of them I was kind of like, if the reactions to this are good, I'll go. And a lot of those just kind of fell flat. And so I just didn't feel like I wanted to get out. But I did watch. So A House of Dynamite released last Friday. For anyone listening to this, it was yesterday for us, but this releases on Thursday.
Right.
So, but that is one that has some buzz of potentially getting some Oscar nominations, and so I watched that one. I would say trigger warning or don't watch for if you're worried about a nuclear war, or if you're really frustrated about potential lack of leadership, I'll say, top corners of the government right now. This could just kind of pile onto that if you're not in the right headspace. But Rebecca Ferguson is fantastic in this. I think she does have potential of being nominated, and if she does, we love it because we love her. Both Kyrie and I both love Rebecca Ferguson.
I was really hoping she was going to get an Oscar nom for Dune Part 2. Because I walked out of that movie being like, just give her the award now.
Yeah. No, she's great. And then I actually saw a new movie, Blue Moon, which is just a fascinating movie, and I'm really glad that I heard about it and went to go see it.
Yeah, I'm really curious about this one.
Yes, so Blue Moon is starring, we've talked about this before, but it is so interesting. It seems like so often you'll get like these actors that all of a sudden like they have like 3 or 4 movies that all come out really soon.
Yeah.
And so this one is Ethan Hawke, who obviously is the main guy in The Black Phone 2, which just also released. But so Ethan Hawke plays Lorenz Hart, who, real person, he was Richard Rogers of Rodgers and Hammerstein. Right, everyone knows Rodgers and Hammerstein, musical theater gods, essentially. And so Hart and Rodgers were actually the pair before Rodgers and Hammerstein, and they wrote over 1,000 songs together. They wrote a lot of popular music at the time. Basically, anything that's popular from like Ella Fitzgerald, these guys wrote.
Okay.
Lots of
Okay.
popular music and different things like that. If you look them up, anybody will recognize a lot of the things that they wrote. So this movie takes place the night that Rodgers and Hammerstein's Oklahoma premieres for the first time. And it's at the like
Okay.
sort of after party of Oklahoma, and Hart, who again played by Ethan Hawke, is just like kind of falling apart, but putting on this face, and like it's honestly is a really incredible movie. It's one of those movies you watch and you're like, the writing on this is just really, really sharp. It's also one of those movies that is kind of like a play where it's one location and you could just turn this into a play and essentially nothing would functionally change. And so it's just like really well written, really quippy dialogue, but you just kind of watch him and you know that he's and none of this is a spoiler. It shows everything pretty early on, and like
Right.
it's a really, I like it as a biopic in the way that it's like a snapshot of it, but he actually died about 7 months later. And again, it's just like, you can just tell that this is Rodgers and Hammerstein's big night, and like he's trying to fit into this, and really good movie. If you can see it, I would. It's fun. And I was listening to an interview from Ethan Hawke, and he was kind of like, these are the types of movies that we love to do. It's independent, but there's no budget for it. And so it's just kind of this funny thing of like, this is my passion, but people, if this sounds interesting to you, go see it. If it sounds really boring, don't go watch it, like whatever. But
Yeah.
there's no marketing budget. I'm the marketing budget. Go see it, whatever. Yeah, it was just a really fun surprise, really, really well put together movie. Oh, Richard Linklater's the director, which I think, as far as like who our best directors are today, I think Richard Linklater is one that doesn't get talked about very often, that I think should be in those conversations more often.
Yeah, I think Linklater, I think I'd agree. I think that's a name that deserves to be in the conversation.
Yeah. So this was really well put together. Margaret Qualley's in it. Just a incredible performance by Ethan Hawke, but it's very melancholy. Like you leave feeling pretty sad, but it's a really great character exploration. So upcoming movies, like I said, November's a very busy month. I think, like I said, I think I'll see at least 5 of these in the theaters, whether or not they have good reviews. Begonia, which is Yorgos Lanthimos, is coming out. Some just released, but for me, it releases this next Friday. I do love that I was seeing on social media, they did a bald screening, because that's one of the big marketing things is they shave Emma Stone's head.
Emma Stone.
And so if you were bald or were willing to get your head shaved, they would let you into the screening for free. And I just love that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so I saw some pictures of that, and just everyone in there is bald.
I've had a buzzed head before. I could do it.
Yes, that's great. There's another movie called Anniversary coming out. I don't know that I'm necessarily, this doesn't sound like a movie I would want to see right now. It seems some sort of like politics of today type movie, but it does have a couple popular people in it, like Dylan O'Brien, a couple other people. Again, I will not be saying that. It doesn't look like something interests me right now. The new Predator movie does come out in about 2 weeks.
Yes.
Or a week from when this releases. I don't remember if I mentioned this already, but it's hilarious because that movie is PG-13 because it's on an alien planet. And so all the blood and gore is not red and it's not human. And so I guess that means they can make it PG-13. But obviously it's going to be ultra violent. It's going to be lots of, limbs and things being torn apart and stuff like that. But hey, PG-13. There is Die My Love coming out, this is the Robert Pattinson and Jennifer Lawrence movie. I don't know a lot of the plot details of this one, and I think it's somewhat mixed reviews. Some people are liking it, some people aren't, but that one looks interesting. Nuremberg is coming out, which is obviously about the trials of Nuremberg. Christie, this is the Sydney Sweeney, where she's playing this female boxer biopic. Now You See Me 3, which a while ago in this podcast I said, Now You See Me, and I was like, oh, that's a fun movie. I tried rewatching it a little while ago and was not for me. I was like, I don't want to watch this. There's Running Man with Glenn Powell, and this is one where this is a remake, Running Man. I haven't seen the original Running Man, but Glenn Powell doing this remake. Obviously the big hitters. This is the month for Wicked Part 2 and Zootopia 2. I'll be seeing both of those.
Right.
Yes,
I
yes.
probably will too.
Sure. And then Eternity. This is the one with Elizabeth Olsen, Miles Teller, where she has to pick either her husband that like died in the war or Miles Teller, who's been her husband for, their whole life. Which one is she going to be with for eternity, which is an interesting concept. And then Arco, which is an animated movie that looks very interesting. And finally, I have Rental Family, and this is the Brendan Fraser movie that looks like it'll be an awards contender. Again, lots of November movies coming out. The ones that I think I will, big chance I'll see, Begonia, Predator,
Yes.
Wicked, Rental Family, Zootopia, maybe depending on how Eternity kind of reviews, I think are kind of my big ones that I'm really looking forward to. Die My Love, I'm open to, but again, I've seen a little bit more mixed on that one, but I would like to see that if it's something I think I'll like. So yeah, big movie month, lots of things coming out, and exciting time to get to the theater.
Yeah, and we'll kind of, again, I will do a little bit better job of actually getting to the theater, and we'll talk about these spoiler-free briefly throughout the month, just to kind of let people know, would we recommend, would we not, what do we think? Because I need to watch, we might end up doing just like a Wicked or Wizard of Oz themed sort of episode, because I have not yet seen the first Wicked, but Wicked is quite possibly my favorite Broadway show. I'm a huge musical theater kid. I have seen Wicked live in London, but have not gotten around to seeing the movie because I was annoyed that it was only the first half and it was already 2 hours and 40 minutes, which Adam kind of knows this as people will listen. If a movie is longer than 2 hours, it needs to prove to me why it deserves to take more than 2 hours of my time. And most of the time, movies don't do that. So when a movie is longer than 2 hours and it's part one, I'm a little bit like, what the hell are you doing? So we'll see. I've had a lot of friends who are like, no, watch it. I think you'd like it. I think I would too, to be completely honest. So I will get around to part one. We can talk about it, and then I'll go see part two. And then, yeah, Begonia for sure is one I'm intrigued by. And as much as I am disappointed by everything that Disney is putting out lately, I really dug Zootopia, and I remember when it came out being like, this could be a really interesting IP, simply because I'm like, it's a buddy cop movie. It's a buddy cop movie set in this really cool, like, imaginative, creative world. I dug Zootopia.
Yeah.
So I have high hopes. I really want this sequel to be good. That being said, I can't remember the last time I watched a Disney movie and was like, impressed. It might have been Zootopia. So, I mean, we'll see. I'm probably going to go see it because it is Disney's newest, and I did quite enjoy the first one. So, but yeah, like I said, we'll kind of give previews throughout the month as far as what that's going to look like.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you all for listening to this. Like we've always said, we would still be doing this if it was just us talking to each other. We love movies. We love talking about movies. You can always share with a friend, like, subscribe, comment, interact with us. We love the interaction. It means a lot when people reach out and just talk about what we're talking about or what we're watching. So speaking of, we will try to end each episode with what we're watching so you can follow along and keep up with that. So for what we're watching, if you want to watch 2023 Tar featuring Kate Blanchett. So if you want to watch Tar, and I don't know the year, but way earlier, Amadeus, that is an upcoming episode we're going to do next week, actually, for a Arts versus Charts. Both of those movies center on some very prolific musicians, composers. And so we'll talk a little bit about those two from that perspective. And like was mentioned earlier, over the next few months, we're watching all of Studio Ghibli, and we're watching as much Tom Cruise as possible for some upcoming episodes there. And that's, and if you want to watch the Obi-Wan series too. And that's primarily what we're watching right now. So keep up with us, join the conversation, and we'll catch y'all next time.
See ya.